The strangest story of the week comes from Sweden, from the furniture giant IKEA. 2 Eritrean refugees to Sweden went to the IKEA and they took knives, kitchen knives, not machetes or anything, and they just went on a stabbing spree in the store, killing a Swedish mom and her son. Terrible attack, shocking double murder. But what has been the response from the country and from IKEA and from Swedish police and politicians? Well, that's even more shocking. IKEA has now banned knives from its stores. Seriously, it's taken knives out of its stores. Just stop to think about that for a minute. These IKEA stores, of course, are already gun-free zones. They actually ask armed police to leave their stores. Yeah, that didn't help. So now they're knife-free zones too. Maybe Sweden will bring in knife control and have a knife registry or something. By the way, they also have other things in IKEA that could really hurt you too, like being hit on the head by a frying pan, I'm guessing. They'll probably have a frying pan registry soon. So that's what IKEA did. But what did the police do? They deployed more police, not to protect citizens, not to IKEA, but to protect migrants from a backlash. Yeah, those angry, violent Swedes, they're obviously the problem here. Look, Sweden is the national manifestation of the liberal mindset of white guilt, of checking your white privilege. Instead of being proud of their national accomplishments, their wealth, their peace, their harmony, their tolerance, they feel guilty for having built one of the best countries in the world. And so they are punishing themselves for what they say is their unearned prosperity and peace by importing as many people from crummier parts of the world as possible. Sweden has less than 10 million citizens, but it's importing 35,000 asylum seekers a year. Not regular immigrants, but people who meet no economic or linguistic or educational or cultural standards, no fit with Sweden other than they want out of Somalia or Syria or other hellholes and in to Sweden's welfare state. 35,000 people. By contrast, Canada accepted 10,000 refugees last year, and our population is 3.5 times bigger. So Sweden is taking 10 times more folks proportionally than we are, but they're not absorbing them. They're not assimilating them. They're not teaching them Swedish values of tolerance and harmony. The population of Sweden's 3rd largest city, Malmö, just across the water from Copenhagen, is now more than 1/3 Muslim, mainly refugees living in slums. They're not making a new life in the Swedish tradition. They've brought their old life in the Somali and Syrian traditions. Bombs going off every week in Malmö, bombs, grenade attacks in Sweden, ethnic gang wars in high schools so bad they shut the schools down. Reports from that IKEA store say that when the stabbing started, people didn't stand by stunned, as you might think, and they certainly didn't try to intervene. They're trained now. They ran screaming, stabbing spree, as in this is the new normal in much of Sweden. Yesterday I mentioned the risk of dangerous immigration to Canada. You can see that video here if you missed it. I'm not just talking about the risk of violence. I'm talking the risk of people saying enough, close all the doors, pull up the drawbridge, both to good and bad people, because we're not being discriminating. That's already happening in Sweden. An anti-immigration party is now in 3rd place in their country's parliament. Can you imagine if our 3rd party in parliament with, say, 50 seats, and their central platform was stopping immigration altogether? And this in Europe's most liberal country. Imagine how bad this civil war has become. And can you blame them? This is what happens when you don't screen for values, like people who believe in the separation of mosque and state, people who believe in secular laws, people who believe in nonviolent solutions to problems, people who believe in the equality of men and women. This is what happens to a country when you pretend that all cultures are the same. If you pretend that Swedish culture is no better than the culture that has ruined much of the Middle East and created these refugees in the first place. There is a low-level terrorist-style civil war in Malmö and other Swedish cities. And sorry, banning knives or pots and pans in IKEA, that's not going to stop it. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.